Hey guys, welcome everybody to the CCW Safe podcast. I am Rob High, your host with my co-host Phillip Naiman. Phillip, it's been a little minute. How you been, brother?
I've been great. I know we've both been busy, but I've been great. So glad to be back on with you.
Most excellent. I got to attend my first Rangemaster TacCon conference this year. Um, just got back Sunday night from that one. It was better than advertised, actually. It was super, super good. Tom Givens has really built an impressive cadre of instructors. Super good guys.
So
Also,
what were the topics that they went through?
everything, absolutely everything. Multiple different empty hand to hand, force on force things. Craig Douglas and his ShivWorks guys were out there doing some combative things. Who else? Greg Ellifritz did some different things. He did what was it? Some Kubaton things.
Oh,
Um, so people that had never been exposed to those kind of things. Andrew Branca was present and did his law of self-defense. Asa Ayub was out there doing some lessons learned and some other case study things. They had a nice little panel that did a three-man presentation on aftermath of a shooting. I don't think those are classes that get put out there often enough. I know that we've talked to those topics at length, but understanding just how far-reaching the effects of a self-defense case go. I really enjoyed it because you had somebody that was from the law enforcement end and talking about responding and dealing with their officers that had been involved in officer involved shootings. You had another officer that had an incident that he thought was a gentleman with an AR, and it wound up being an airsoft gun. And another guy that's a civilian that was home with his family and had a break-in. The person would not respond to verbal commands and continued to engage and come in, and the man had a wife and kids in the house and had to engage him, but his wife was also present, so it was very nice for people that were there to see things from her perspective as well. It's just one of those that, you know, we're just in a time now that, you know, it's the odds are still greatly in our favor that we'll never be involved in anything like that, but it's more and more frequent, and it's just something that we're seeing at every level across the country. I still think it's one of those that goes without saying. Obviously the home invasion shooting that they presented was somebody that was in desperate need of some mental health attention, but we don't know that. I mean,
yeah. What are you going to do? Diagnose them on the run? You
yeah,
know,
it's not going to happen. Yeah.
I think I think the severity is different. It seems that in the past, people had some kind of, well, crime still happened. Victims were still, horribly treated or killed, but uh, it seems like the bad guys now are just going for broke. Like, so what? We saw a video the other day of some drunken guy attacking a guy, and the guy pulls out his gun, says, "Leave me alone," step back, and the guy charges him again. It's like, what are you doing? I mean, common sense has left the building. And in some states, the left coast in particular, when they've removed all penalties for crimes, it emboldens them to take that next step. And a home invasion, somebody's home, and somebody breaks into the house, they're not selling Girl Scout cookies. They know the people are there. They're not responding to intentions. I mean, where do you go with that? It does force you to that next level, because you can't let them continue, because the results of that action are something you cannot or may not live with, but cannot live with for sure. So it seems that the criminal element has been so emboldened by some areas' lack of doing the little things, like, I don't know, putting them in jail for assault or attempted murder, the little things, that they just roll forward. And sometimes it's the actual terminal force is the only thing that stops them.
Yeah, it's a whole different level of threat when they've come into your own domain, and you have a wife behind you that is not trained in what to do. You have children that are behind you. I found it interesting how many questions came to the guy, and he actually has a legal membership service through a competitor, but it was one of those that, as they were talking about the things going on, he made a phone call, they assigned him an attorney, he was very pleased with the attorney, but that was essentially kind of the end of it as far as services provided. And it just makes me so proud to work for friends of mine that have developed a package for people that is so remarkable. Well, it used to be very similar to what law enforcement got, and we've exceeded that. We've gone so much far beyond that as far as services and things in place. There was a question from the audience, and somebody asked, what about, obviously it happened in your home. Did they send anybody out to clean that up? And it's a biohazard. The results of a shooting are ugly. It can be a contaminant. You don't know anything about the person who spilled blood on your property, and they wanted to know, did they send somebody out? Did they help with this? And that was not an option for this family, and he had to clean up himself. That's just not okay.
No.
I remember a classmate of mine in the police academy, same thing. He was attacked. He was violently attacked. And by the time he was able to get a gun into the fight, he was face down in a bar ditch with an assailant on his back, and he basically shot him off. And his first round was a contact shot. And it was one of those that was really easy to work. It was something that was, yes, everything is in place. We had independent witnesses that were there that corroborated the story. The guy that attacked the officer, his friend corroborated the story. Yeah, this is what happened. He didn't have any choice. So it was, at that time, it was a very quick turnaround. It was like, yes, the district attorney's office blesses him, and no fault of your own. This was obviously a self-defense act. It was done in the line of duty. Everything is good. You're blessed. You can go back to work. Well, that's okay, but not everybody is quite ready to go right back to work. And when they made all these decisions on this, they just gave him his pistol back, and he had a lot of contamination inside that pistol. Is
Ugh.
that first round was a contact wound, and it was one of those that we didn't know ahead of time. But after that, I was like, man, I'm a firearms instructor. If somebody has been involved in a shooting like that, bring the gun to me. I'll clean it. But
That's what they have the old. That's why they have the ultrasound machines. Just put it in the machine.
but having survived a lethal attack on yourself, and then you get that reminder, and I'm telling you, it shook that guy up really bad. It's one of those things that's been more than 25 years ago, but I still remember responding to that call like it was yesterday. Um, it's just all of those things that get included in this. So anytime you can get to a class that's like that, Mike Darter, our CEO, has done one. Gary Eastridge, our critical response manager, has done one. We've all contributed to putting training out like that because it's really important to kind of have an understanding how all of that's going to work before you're actually involved. And there's an old saying that I always found to be so perfect. And it was, you can either be consumed by the fire or you can be forged by it. And if I've done no preparation, I can only expect to be consumed. If I've worked on this and actually trained and given focus to how these events will go, and the things I'll have to respond to, the officer that had been involved, and the kid had an airsoft toy AR, and he obviously he's from a little bit more liberal area, and he was just roasted in the press. They really attacked him, and he had death threats, and his family had death threats. He was doxxed. They put his residence and information online to where anybody had access to it. It's just one of those things that we keep doing things like this in this country, and you're going to have people that aren't going to be willing to stand in the gap anymore. I find that to be really troubling.
And some people are like, well, it was an airsoft gun. If you've done one level of training, where somebody's presenting something, maybe it's a house or something like that, the speed at which something is presented, the intent that something is presented. Someone's got an AR-15 airsoft gun or AK, whatever, but how are you going to decide, okay, I should just let them take the first shot to make sure it's not a plastic pellet? I mean, what you can't, because that person has brought that into that area, whether they realized it or not. They notched the response up to another level. You, with a pistol, it is very difficult. Like, against somebody who's trained with the rifle, it's a very difficult situation you're going to be in. So you're not going to let somebody else get an upper hand with a long gun. You're just not going to do that. You can't if you want to survive. So that puts a responding anybody in a huge deficit as far as time or compassion is, because you can't hold back. You have to go. I'm sorry for the family of the child who had, or young man, or whoever it was, who had the airsoft gun, but you have to realize that he caused it.
Yeah, and it's something that again, those ripples, the effect that incident will have for an eternity. It
Yeah.
affects the officer and the officer's family and the guys that he works around. It affects, obviously, the young man is deceased for his actions in that case, but it goes on and on and on. He's got siblings and parents and loved ones and classmates and whatever else out there, and everybody responds to those in a different way. So to have the opportunity to have places that we can go and we can learn about the justice system and how it's designed to work, how it's designed, how the things that we have the opportunity to utilize for our protection in the event that charges are filed. The ability to, if all you got is a hammer, every one of your problems is a nail. So, and I understand. I mean, there's people that, because of their age, because of physical conditions and ailments and things like that, they're not going to spend 4 days a week in a dojo rolling and throwing guys or throwing punches or kicking and doing all that stuff. But there's a lot of things that we can do. I was really impressed. There was a group down there. I met a gentleman that he's actually a retired attorney now in Texas, but he designs courses for people with disabilities. And typically,
Nice.
typically guys that have lost use of limbs or lost limbs and things like that. And he's taken a lot of guys that were injured, serving the country and had these huge injuries that think, I can't do this anymore. And he's got the expertise to push that forward and create a means for them. And it's a big deal for guys that have stood in the gap. They've been the defender, and all of a sudden, because of that obligation, that promise to serve this country at the cost up to your life, and all of a sudden it's like everything you had has kind of been taken away because of an injury. And to give them hope that no, it's not, there's a way through this, and we can design things for you. So that was pretty interesting. We had man, I'm telling you, the caliber of instruction and instructor cadre that Tom Givens has collected and put together in one place. I don't know that he'll ever be able to find a better host. The Dallas Pistol Club is far enough away that you can do all the shooting that you want, but it's close enough that it's a 5-minute drive from the hotel.
Nice.
And plenty of ranges and plenty of space, plenty of classroom spaces for the guys that were just doing classroom blocks of instruction. And there was probably more classroom instruction than online instruction. So you could really kind of do a deep dive on a lot of different topics. I was very impressed with the programming and the things that they were able to bring.
One of the things you were mentioning about that class for people who had disabilities is sometimes you may have a temporary disability, like you saw in January where I, destroyed my hand, and still, there won't be any jujitsu till the end of June. So my left hand is basically off limits. So, how do you now, so you could have a temporary injury and have to do everything one-handed. I was shooting with my friend Mike Zengali. This was a couple of years ago. It's like the medical history of Phillip Naiman. I had a shoulder surgery, so I couldn't use my right arm. So I shot a practical pistol course left-handed all day long, unsupported, which made for a very long day and a lot of ammunition spent. But, when was the last time you shot 300 rounds unsupported with your offhand? But I don't know. So maybe that should be part of our regular training regimen, is doing things one-handed. I mean, yes, it's great, proper grip, draw stroke, all this stuff, but a lot of times something could happen,
Yep. We we're prepping now. We've got a few classes coming out to our range, good classes. Justin's working out there, and he's our production manager, but he also kind of oversees things going on at the range. We've got some progress being made out there with some tidying up and fixing up and kind of rebuilding some shooting ranges and things like that. So got plenty of that coming up.
Beautiful facility.
It is a beautiful place. We're also a couple weeks out from NRA national meeting. So anybody that's going to make NRA, we sure hope that everybody is going to swing by and touch base with us. We have our National Trial Counsel, Don West, is going to be out there. He's going to make an appearance each day. Jeff Gonzalez is going to come out and make some appearances for us. We'll have JJ Ricazza out there making some appearances for us. So got a really good team going out there this year. We have a brand new booth. We're really excited to get out there and share our message and answer any questions that for anybody that's out there that's maybe using another carrier, wants to do a comparison and see what kind of difference that we could make in their service. So that one's coming up mid-April. So we'll be out there shortly. Another thing is we're at that time where we're back and everybody is at each other's throats with the continuation of active shooters, active killers, spree shooters, however you want to address them.
Murderers.
Yeah, they are. And it's one of those that it's silly that the press wants to get involved with the stupid minutia of stuff that, well, it's this or it's that or it's, and the thing is whatever the reason, we all understand it's been this way for a long time. Hurt people. But to very specifically target areas that are safe areas, safe zones, safe places where the threat of you being confronted is reduced by policy and sometimes by law.
I made a statement on that one time when I said that criminals are cowards, and they choose a place like that because they don't want to be confronted. They've got an evil in that they're consumed by. They don't want to be stopped. They don't want to be confronted. They'll take the avenue that gives them the least resistance because they are cowards. They'll write something on this last one. They're all horrific. There's nothing you can say in their, I'm not even going to say defense, but nothing you can say on their side of the ledger, period. Everything they've done is absolutely wrong, evil, and should never be condoned. Absolutely, 1,000%. But they choose these areas, whether it's a school. And in California, the restrictions on where you can carry a legal CCW are ridiculous. And they're trying to even make them worse, almost to the point where you really can't carry legally anywhere in the state because of all these restrictions that they're putting on, which means that they're telling these crazies, hey, you have far less to worry about.
Well, and we play into that as well, making things dangerous, especially if you're talking about, you placard an entire, you go to a big mall and that's a big community. There's a lot of people there. And we saw the Elisha Dickin last year in Indiana step forward and address a threat and saved lives. There's no question that he saved lives. We had the recent one in El Paso. You had a good guy with a gun that stopped a bad guy with a gun.
There's never any placards outside those malls that say criminal free zone.
No,
They should just put that sign up and then everything's fine. Yeah.
It's interesting. There are enough people that have deep dived into these studies that this information is out there. There's a guy that is one of our FTA members. He and his brother own a range in Arkansas, but his name's Ed Monk. I like to give Ed a little shout out just for the work that he's done. Ed is no local redneck clown that's claiming things. He was a West Point graduate. He retired as a lieutenant colonel from the Army. He was a tank commander. He was in armor for his career. But he told a story recently that was talking about when he got out of the Army, his big desire is he wanted to go and be a teacher. He thought that would be a great way to continue to serve his community. He's got a servant's heart. That's the kind of thing he's plugging himself into. And he does. He gets hired and he goes to the administration. He wants to know, these are things that are happening in the country. These are absolute things that are occurring. What are we supposed to do? If something happens at the school that I'm instructing at, what do I do with my classroom? And the answer was the same as it was back in the 80s. It's move them as far away from the window in the door so that they can't be seen, and push everybody into a corner. And if you've got somebody that's coming in with a firearm of any type, that's a no miss scenario. I just pointed in the direction of the corner and just start shooting. And he was like, absolutely not. This is not this is the way to kill kids. And it landed on deaf ears. But Ed and his brother have done the research, and it all comes down to time. The sooner that you can get a firearm into the fight against somebody doing evil, the sooner you stop that threat. When I first came into law enforcement, our response on something like that was get as many people there as quickly as you can, surround the area, lock down the scene, and call the SWAT guys. And that is not a winning combination.
Now you're the SWAT guys.
Yes. And then post Columbine, everybody was like, that doesn't work. Why people don't realize that police did not end that confrontation at Columbine. They got tired and they killed themselves. They weren't in the building. There was another like 45 minutes before police even entered the scene, and it was all done. So
I remember they had an FBI statistic. I mean, even the FBI figured it out, that if an active shooter, and these are casualties, not always deaths, but if an active shooter situation or mass shooter situation is stopped by police, the average is 14 point something casualties. If it's stopped by a civilian, meaning the first responder on the scene, first victim, it's like 2.1.
Mhm.
700% difference in the casualty rate. Um, it's time, right? And as we said before, a lot of these are cowards. A shot comes out their way, whether it hits them or not. But when that supersonic crack goes past their left ear, it changes their entire game plan.
Well, and you're right. In an incident like this is an act of cowardice to me. But we tried to make a correction to waiting on the SWAT team, and it was like, okay, you get the first three guys there, and then you make a quick entry team with that. That's still waiting too long. And now it is you get there, you go. And believe it or not, part of the hardest part of that training for cops
Just
is
wait.
is not is not to get them to go. It's you get them in, and all of a sudden you get to a victim that's down, and that you want so badly to make that the priority with what you're doing right there. And in that scenario, that's not your priority. In that scenario, it's to press on, step over them, and go find where that threat is. Um,
December 2nd, 2015 in San Bernardino, family member, good friend also, was is still San Bernardino SWAT. They happened to be training that day. They were geared up and doing a training session only a few miles away from that mass shooting that happened December 2nd, 2015 in San Bernardino, where those two jihadis took off. They were under 4 minutes. A SWAT team was there. That's like an unheard of thing, right? Because they already were geared up and they just were not that far away and they made it there. They went, and he said the same thing. There were so many victims, but they had to stay focused on the threats and searching. There was carnage in there. And what they didn't realize at the time was that there was these brown bags along the sides of all the walls that these jihadis had set out that had radio communication explosives, and that they were in the parking lot trying to set them off, but they'd parked too far away. But I mean, that's some of the things you're up against. And fortunately, that afternoon they went to go meet 72 Virginians, and that was the end of that. But the the situation, what I'm saying is they're there to defend, but you've got people laying on the ground and screaming and crying, and they have to stay focused on what they're doing, as you just said.
well, and people don't realize. I know most recently you actually had uh, a student that was trying to pull the fire alarm, but even without somebody purposely doing that, um, that fire alarm usually goes off once once the shooter starts discharging that firearm. It's just the concussion that activates those sensors, and that's typically what starts setting that off. Um, Anybody that got to see recent video, and hats off to the people in Nashville and their chief for not hiding anything. They stuck everything out front. And as a professional that's done that, there would be things that I could critique, but that would just be stupid right now because those guys were absolutely heroic. They took fire on arrival and geared up and went in and just went to work. Um, for
They got it. They got to find where this person's at, because it's
Yes,
you know
yeah,
up the stairs, down the stairs. I mean, but they kept going,
yeah,
and that's part of being professional on their end. That they've got their vest on, they got their gear. That's another 30 pounds. They've got to run and sprint into these areas and continue until the fight's over.
yeah,
The physical capabilities they have to maintain.
yeah.
I think they did a great job. I don't think there's anything to critique from anybody who wasn't in this situation.
Well, it's just one of those that, you touched on it earlier. The sooner there is somebody that can address that lethal threat, the faster that you can address it, the more lives that are saved. It's just that quick. Um, I don't know. It's just one of those that, the outreach for this goes so far. I mean, it's not just the victims in the school. It's not just the family of the shooter. It's everybody that was involved in that in whatever way. And another aspect is if you have been involved in a critical incident like that and you've not ever dealt with those things properly, you don't know how to seek the help for that. This is another one of those things that re-trigger you. It hits you all over again. So the ability to have people that know what kind of help and assistance that you need following an incident like that is just, it doesn't have a price for that. I mean, it's a priceless service to be able to get somebody that kind of help. And again, it's another one of the things that just comes with all of the packages that we offer to the members for CCW Safe. So we're really proud of that.
You mentioned that
Yeah.
tangentially, but exactly what are you talking about?
Well, you get psychological counseling and therapists that are not just a therapist. You have somebody that is specifically trained to deal with people that have survived critical incidents. Yeah. And to be able to help people reprogram and handle the kind of stuff. I've gone through stuff like that. Our COO Stan's gone through stuff like that. There's so much benefit from being able to properly digest that and not make it something that just you get triggered with all the time. That's a big deal. It's just, and to have a company that has an ownership group that understands the value of having mechanisms like that in place for our members, just it's such an incredible benefit. I'm just always so humbled and honored to get to work for this company, and then just so excited because the guys that own this company are my friends. That's just a really big deal for us. I love the family aspect of it.
Good people. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other part of that, you can tell watching the Stephen Maddox interviews. You pull up one of the stories of Stephen that we've done and listen to him. The guy's family. To have somebody that is a paid member that has experienced the worst of the worst, and he understands that family aspect of it, and we get cards and letters and phone calls regular from this guy, which is an added bonus for us because he's such a quality human being. But we've had other guys that have been involved in incidents that the same thing. It's not anything to be going through the day and all of a sudden you get a text that they're just checking on us. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Have you got anything coming up on the horizon?
I just did a bunch of things. I think we're going to be focused on my family. My son graduated med school, so we're going back to pick him up after his graduation, and just very blessed with that.
Very good. What's his next step?
He'll be at UCSD in residency. So probably July, I think they start that. So coming back out to California, but at least he's in San Diego. I mean, if
Yes. Yes.
you gotta be in the crazy town, and San Diego's awful hard to beat.
Yeah. Well, we I got a full summer coming up, so we are looking forward to getting out there and meeting some of our members. Like I said, we're going to be out in Indy here in a couple of weeks for the NRA annual meeting. So if you guys are out there and get an opportunity to swing by and see us, we'd love to see you. Come grab
Rob's signing autographs in the CCW safe booth.
Yeah,
Autograph photos.
I do thumbprints in blood. Was it really him? Oh, man, Phil, it's good to see you again, brother. I've been missing you.
Me too. I'm glad things are working out for you.
Yeah, we'll get back at it and have other things coming up. We got Craig Douglas from ShivWorks that'll be on with us next week. We already got him locked down, so just want to say thanks. And if you guys, as always, have any comments, questions, concerns, you can always reach me directly. My email is rob at ccwsafe.com.
Yeah. Don't send your complaints to me. Send them to Rob.
We look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
God bless. Have a great day.